society. And we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings.
I think a new world order is emerging.
An inside job? How dare you? How dare you?
To create, so to say, mass-produced models of human beings arranged in some kind of a scientific caste system.
We shall go on to the end. We shall fight with growing confidence and growing strength in the air. We shall never surrender.
Good day, everybody. It's the 2nd of August, right? Yeah, 2nd of August 2014, and this is UCY.tv with the Solvinur Event. If you go to UCY, mouse over shows, click on any of them, you will end up in the chat. That's where you can ask questions. There's already a couple of people there. Dan, Hecty, JJ, Mr. Tesseract, something like that. Vince, Gringo, and Foranons. What's up, everybody? So, let's see, we're going to go into the history of the Indian mythology again. There was a little bit of chat going on about this in the chat room, and Dan asked if there was going to be any chanting, and I said yes, kind of laughingly, because normally I wouldn't, but this is normal when you start reading from any of the Vedas, is that you start with 3 times a repeating of this mantra, alright? So mantra, M-A-N-T-R-H, that's what you chant, the text of that mantra. And I gotta warn you guys, it really is dangerous to do that. It really does affect your brain and your mind. Alright? It's repetition. It's not for nothing that they make you do this 3 times, you see? And it's just 4 words. And the repetition gets you in a kind of trance. If you keep doing that, you know, you guys probably know these Hare Krishnas. They go into town and they chant this Hare Krishna mantra. That's only 3 words, right? Hare Krishna and Rama. And so you keep repeating that and then expect to have nothing happen to your mind. Okay, that's insane. It really does influence you, and you should be very wary and very careful if you ever do that. I advised against doing it. I'm going to do this mantra that is usually done before a reading from any of the Vedas, just to let you guys hear what is done all over India. Every time they start reading from any of the Vedas, alright? So it's education, alright? Is that so? To make and to do? No, that's not true. That's not true then. To make, well, it depends on your definition, alright? Would you guys say in English to make a car? Well, I guess, do we say that in Dutch? Een auto maken. So, but make is maken. See, do you hear the etymological tie there, right, Dan? Make, maken, it sounds exactly the same, right? And the same goes for do. We have a Dutch word, doen. Sounds exactly like do, you see? Yeah, I'm doing radio. I'm making radio. I don't even know how you're supposed to say that in English. I am having a broadcast, right? Whatever, you know, I don't know. But so maken is to make and doen is to do. See, so there's two different ways. Make is more like production, you know, and do is more like an action word. Alright, that's all I can say about that, I guess. So, what's up everybody? How you doing? If you want to join the radio, that's also possible. It's no big deal to interrupt the reading here that I'm going to do. Contact me, Solvinur, at Skype, Solvinur. So, and then I'll add you to the call, and we should be able to make some radio. On air, yeah, that's a good one, Vince. I'm on air, well, yeah. And that sounds so strange when you translate that into Dutch, right? It's like, are you flying or what, you know? I try to stay with both feet on the earth, you know? Yeah. Alright, let's see what we can do here, guys. We were at page 25. Skype window is blocking my text. I'm gonna move this. Hold on. Put that somewhere here. There you go. Alright, so where were we? Page 25. And before reading this, one should say Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And that 3 times, so Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Alright, so there you go. That's what they do in India before reading anything. Alright? Anything from the Vedas, that is. Alright, so this part, this section, goes over what is going to be in the different, quote-unquote chapters of what's coming. And there's too much. We're not going to be, I probably won't end this. There's too much text. Alright? So, this is a description of what is coming in the next chapters. It's a description of the different chapters. Alright? So, then, and this is where we left off last week. So, then comes the dispatch. The dispatch? What the heck is that? I thought it was dispatch. There's also dispatch. I don't know what that is. Then comes the dispatch by the Pandavas of their Purohita. That's a priest. To the Kauravas. Yeah, that would be dispatch, right? That's D-I-S. Why is it written here D-E-S? Well, maybe my writing is wrong, but they're sending a priest to the Kauravas, apparently. Then is described how King Dhritarashtra, of great prowess, having heard the words of the priest of the Pandavas, and the story of Indra's victory, decided upon spending his Purohita and ultimately dispatched Sanjaya as envoy to the Pandavas from desire for peace. Yeah. Well, it's kind of strange that they're making it sound like Dhritarashtra is a peace-wanting king. If that were really true, he would have solved this matter in a better way, so there would not be a war. I mean, if there's anybody who could have prevented this war, it would be him. You know, he's supposed to control his son. Instead, it seems like his son has more control over him, you see. Here hath been described the sleeplessness of Dhritarashtra from anxiety upon hearing all about the Pandavas and their friends, Vasudeva and others. It was on this occasion that Vidura addressed to the wise king Dhritarashtra various counsels that were full of wisdom. Yeah, and he hardly ever listened to this Vidura. Did any of you culture barbarians actually take the time and watched Peter Brook's Mahabharata on YouTube? You know, you will see this Vidura giving counsel. It was here also that Sanat Suyata recited to the anxious and sorrowing monarch the excellent truths. Alright, so we'll get into that also, and this is also very dangerous stuff, this spiritual philosophy. Last week when this came up, I said, oh, this should be interesting. Yeah, it's interesting, but it's also very dangerous. Alright? Well, when we get to that, you know, we'll discuss it. Maybe I will just at some point stop reading from this and move on to the Bhagavad Gita, because that's where the spiritual philosophy is being handled, is being spoken about. Alright? On the next morning, Sanjaya spoke in the court of the king of the identity of Vasudeva and Arjuna. It was then that the illustrious Krishna, moved by the kindness and the desire for peace, went himself to the Kaurava capital. Yeah. So again, here it says that Krishna is now supposedly having a desire for peace. Alright, again I have to speak out against that. If that were true, this reminds me a little bit of the flood story in the Bible, you know. It is said that, well, God was not satisfied and the people were evil and he just decided to flood the whole place. Excuse me? That's insane. Why kill all the innocent animals and other normal people just because there's some evil going on? Why can't you just whisk away the evil ones? Right? Same goes here. If Krishna was really wanting to have peace, he could have just whisked away all the evil people, right? No, he doesn't do that. He lets a war go on in which millions of people, according to their own books, are going to die. Innocent people. Alright? So, what do you mean wanting peace? He's God. You know, this Krishna. He's the most high ever. There's nobody that comes near him and nobody that goes above him. There's no one alike, you know, that's what they always say. He has absolute power, right? Yes, Vince, there is evidence for global flood. That's why it's okay to read the Bible. You know, there's some truth in there. And even especially the first parts of Genesis I like a lot. It sounds like a creation story. And then not by God, but just how it happened over the thousands of years. And the same goes for the flood. It's probably that story, which is older than the Bible, by the way, was engraved in human memory and got written down at some point. You see? So, alright, let's continue this. So Krishna went to the Kaurava capital, Hanistapura, for bringing about peace. Yeah, right. Then comes the rejection by Prince Duryodhana of the embassy of Krishna, who had come to solicit peace for the benefit of both parties. Here hath been recited the story of Damvodava. That's then next, right? So, but Krishna is going to the capital to speak with Duryodhana, who's a prince, right? I mean, why doesn't he address the king, his father of Duryodhana? You know, and the prince, he has a right to the lands. He's the heir of the blind king, you see. He has a right to the lands. And now Krishna comes and asks him, well, why don't you give away some of that land? Do you think it's strange that Duryodhana says no? It's my kingdom, you know? And then he's supposed to be the bad guy because he doesn't give away. I'm not saying that he's a saint, but it's just, this is how the two sides are set up, right? Oh, it's the poor Arjuna who doesn't have a piece of land. Right? He's also entitled to land. He's also of royal blood, so to speak. Right? Duryodhana and Arjuna are tied family-wise. You know? Alright, so where were we? Here hath been recited the story of Damvodava. So we'll hear about that. Dan asks in the chat, can anyone date these floods accurately? Yeah, Dan, and this is just my thinking here, I'm thinking that it has to do with the end of the last ice age. That caused a flood, you know, so that's like 10, 11, 12,000 years ago. You know, it's like in the story you get told like, well, it rained for 40 days and 40 nights and poof, there was a flood. Right? It doesn't happen like that. I've had 6 weeks of rain in my memory. I have. And this was really bad because it was during the summer vacation from school. We had 6 weeks of straight rain. Did you see Holland flood? No. You see, so it's not like this is a period of 40 days and then poof, the whole earth is flattened. I'm thinking like thousands of years that this happened, you know? Probably because the sun got more active and started melting the ice. Alright, continuing. Then the story of the high-souled Matuli's research for a husband for his daughter. Then the history of the great saga. No, not saga. The great sage Galava. Never heard of him. Then the story of the training and discipline of the son of Bidula. Then the exhibition by Krishna before the assembled Rajas and his yoga powers upon learning the evil counsels of Duryodhana and Karna. Alright, so you see what you're getting here is a description of what is going to come in the rest of the Mahabharata. Right? It's kind of like an introduction. Then Krishna's taking Karna in his chariot and his tendering to him of advice, and Karna's rejection of the same from pride. Really? That's not what is that's not what comes across when you see the video of Peter Brooks. At some point Krishna comes to him and tells him his real lineage. He's a brother of Arjuna, but on the battlefield, he's standing against him. In the video, it doesn't say that it's really pride, it's more that he is loyal to Duryodhana. Duryodhana gave him a kingdom. And he swore his loyalty and friendship to Duryodhana. So what does that have to do with pride? I don't see that, Then the return of Krishna, the chastiser of enemies, from Hastinapura to something like that, and his narration of the Pandavas of all that had happened. It was then that those oppressors of foes, the Pandavas, sound like propaganda to you? Having heard all of the consulted properly with each other, having heard all and consulted properly with each other, made every preparation for war. Yeah. I don't know exactly when this is supposed to be, but in the 12 years of exile, they were also preparing for war. And they had something like, well, if Arjuna is going to ask for some land, he's going to be rejected by Duryodhana, so we're going to go to war, you see. Then comes the march from Hastinapura for battle of foot soldiers, horses, charioteers and elephants. Then the tale of the troops by both parties. Then the dispatch by Prince Duryodhana of Ulaka as envoy to the Pandavas on the day previous to the battle. Then the tale of charioteers of different classes. Then the story of Amba, that's a real nice story. These all have been described in the 5th Parva called Udyoga of the Bharata. Alright, so that's the 5th Parva, they call it here. Abounding with incidents appertaining to war and peace. O ye ascetics, the great Vyasa hath composed 186 sections in this Parva. The number of slokas also composed in this by the great Rishi is 6,698. Then is recited the Bhishma Parva, replete with wonderful incidents. In this has been narrated by Sanjaya the formation of region known as Jambu. Here has been described the Great Depression of Yudhishthira's army and also a fierce fight for 10 successive days. In this the high-souled Vasudeva, by reason based on the philosophy of final release, drove away Arjuna's compunction, springing from the latter's regard for his kindred. Alright, this is a description of the first words of the Bhagavad Gita. Alright, hold on guys. When the Bhagavad Gita starts, it's about a battlefield. Alright, it's about the battlefield of Kurukshetra. And before the war starts, Arjuna is telling his chariot driver, Krishna, to move his chariot between the two armies so that he can see his enemy. And Krishna does so, and upon seeing his enemy, he notices that his teachers are there, his nephews are there, his family is there, and they're all wanting to go to war. And he's like, well, why should I do this? Why should I wage war against those that taught me the tactics of war. You know, he got taught how to handle a bow. And now he's supposed to kill the person that taught him how to handle a bow. So he's reluctant. You know, he doesn't want to fight. And he lays down his bow. His legs are trembling. And he says to Krishna, I will not fight. This is when Krishna comes in and says, well, you weakling, you know. This does not become of a person in your class. You know, he's a kshatriya, he's a warrior. He's supposed to fight. And he starts explaining about the spiritual philosophy and why it is okay to kill. Do you see why this is dangerous now? We'll get to that at some point. You know, when I've had enough of this, reading from the Mahabharata just as it is, we will go to the Bhagavad Gita and read from there a bit. In this, the magnanimous Krishna, attentive to the welfare of Yudhishthira, seeing the loss inflicted on the Pandava army, descended swiftly from his chariot himself and ran with dauntless breast, his driving whip in hand, to effect the death of Bhishma. Oh, really? I thought he wasn't supposed to take part in the war. That's unlikely then. If chariot were Vimana, they would have used the word Vimana. Right? In this, yeah, well, they would have translated the word Vimana. They're talking then, this is a war with bow and arrow, clubs, spears, chariots, horses, elephants. Doesn't mention anything about advanced technologies. In this, Krishna also smote with piercing words Arjuna, the bearer of the Gandiva, that's a bow, and the foremost in battle among all wielders of weapons. Yeah. In this, the foremost of bowmen, Arjuna, placing Shikandin before him and piercing Bhishma with his sharpest arrows, felled him from his chariot. Yeah. This is not at the beginning of the fight, guys. I mean, Bhishma, you know, you can have Arjuna in front of you, but Bhishma will not just get hit by his arrows. At some point it does, but it takes something very special for that to happen. Felled him from his chariot. In this, Bhishma lay stretched on his bed of arrows. Alright? Bhishma, you know, he was also, quote unquote, a sage, or whatever you want to call these holy men from the past, and had been given by the gods a special power, namely, that he could decide his own death. Nobody could kill him. It's impossible, because he was going to decide when it was time to die. That was a gift given to him. Lomper says, this topic is way over my head. Alright, don't worry about it, Lomper. When I started doing this, I was also like, what's going on here? So, but don't worry about that. Just listen and do not fall for things that I might not be able or forget to comment on, you know, like the religious aspects of this. It'll come also in when discussing the philosophy. Alright, So just listen, and you will also find that a lot of this stuff comes back in the New Age. Alright, so this is very dangerous stuff. So be careful. Do not accept anything literally that you hear here. But you should know about this so that you can dismantle the New Age stuff. So that you can say, hey, this is ages old. This is thousands of years old. This is a way that people have been controlled in the past, you see. Thousands of years ago, the people that were listening to this story were living in a society built of castes. A caste system, where the priests were telling everybody else what to do. Where the priests had the most power. And the rest of the people were slavishly following. The priests had the most knowledge. A Kshatriya would only be given the knowledge he needed to know for waging war. A Vaishya would only be given the knowledge to make him able to work on the field. Vaishya, Kshatriya. The Brahma is the priest, the Kshatriya is the warrior, the Vaishya, will only be told how to do business. And, now I've got things confused. Business and farming, do they go together? Looks like it. Or it's the Sudra that only does farming. Alright, my memory is failing me here. We'll get to that in the Gita anyway, it's explained there. But that's a totally controlled society, you see. Yes, Cap, it's still a caste society. It's been like that for thousands of years. And the British, when they came there, they saw this caste system in place. You know what? They took it back to the Western country and implemented it here. We have a caste system as well, we just don't call it that. This, continuing here, this extensive parva is known as the sixth in the Bharata, and this have been composed, 117 sections. Hold on, guys. The number of slokas is 5,884 as told by Vyasa, conversant with the Vedas. Then is recited the wonderful parva called Drona, full of incidents. First comes the installation in the command of the army of the great instructor in arms. Drona, then the vow made by that great master of weapons of seizing the wise Yudhishthira in battle to please Duryodhana, then the retreat of Arjuna from the field before the Sansaptakas, then the overthrow of Bhagadatta, like to a second Indra in the field, with the elephant Supritika by Arjuna, then the death of the hero Abhimanyu in his teens. I told you that story last week if I remember. Alone and unsupported at the hands of many Maharathas, including Jayadratha. Then after the death of Abhimanyu, the destruction by Arjuna in battles of 7 Ashkauhinis of troops, and then of Jayadratha, then the entry by Bhima of mighty arms, and by that foremost of warriors and chariots, Satyaki, into the Kaurava ranks, impenetrable even to the gods, in search of Arjuna, in obedience to the orders of Yudhishthira. Alright, Dan puts a link in the chat about Cain and Abel. Sounds like a story between two brothers. Alright, what do you think this is what I'm reading to you? It is a story of a war between two brothers, you know? And the destruction of the remnant of the Sansaptakas. And the Drona Parva is the death of Alumbusha, of Srutayus, of Jalasanda, of Shomadatta, of Virata, of the great warrior in chariots Drupada, of Gatotkacha and others. In this Parva, Ashwatthama, excited beyond measure at the fall of his father in battle, discharged the terrible weapon Narayana. Then the glory of Rudra, that's another name of Shiva, in connection with the burning of the 3 cities. Oh, that's interesting. A friend of mine who had read this part about Shiva destroying the 3 cities. Now that's an interesting story. I asked him, is this about London, the Vatican and Washington DC? And he said, yeah, it's kind of like the same story. Then the arrival of Vyasa and the recital by him of the glory of Krishna and Arjuna. This is the great 7th Parva of the Bharata, in which all the heroic chiefs and princes mentioned were sent to their account. The number of sections in this is 170. The number of slokas as composed in the Drona Parva by Rishi Vyasa, the son of Parasara and the professor of true knowledge after much meditation, is 8,909. Then comes the most wonderful Parva called Karna, and this is narrated the appointment of the wise king of Madra as Karna's charioteer. Then the history of the fall of the Asura Tripura. Then the application to each other by Karna and Salya of harsh words on their setting out for the field. Then the story of the swan and the crow, recited in insulting allusions. Swan and the crow. Then the death of Pandya at the hands of the high-souled Ashwatthama. Then the death of Dasena. Then that of Darda. Then Yudhishthira's imminent risk in single combat with Karna and in the presence of all the warriors. Then the mutual wrath of Yudhishthira and Arjuna. Then Krishna's pacification of Arjuna. In this Parva, Bhima, in fulfillment of his vow, having ripped open Dushasana's breast in battle, drank the blood of his heart. And then he calls his, I think it's his wife, and she messes up her hair in the blood of Dushasana, because Dushasana was the one who drug? How do you call it? What's the past tense of drag? Who had dragged her, something like that, in the court after losing the infamous dice game. Let's see, where were we? Then Arjuna slew the great Karna in a single combat. Readers of the Bharata call this the 8th Parva. The number of sections in this is 69 and the number of slokas is 4,964. Then has been recited the wonderful Parva called Salya. Dragged. Who dragged? Alright, thanks Dan. After all the great warriors had been slain, the king of Madra became the leader of the Kaurava army. The encounters, one after another, of charioteers have been here described. Then comes the fall of the great Salya at the hands of Yudhishthira, the just. Here also is the death of Sakuni in the battle at the hands of Sahadeva. Upon only a small remnant of the troops remaining alive after the immense slaughter, Duryodhana went to the lake and creating for himself room within its waters, lay stretched there for some time. Then is narrated the receipt of this intelligence by Bhima from the fowlers. What the hell is that? Then is narrated how, moved by the insulting speeches of the intelligent Yudhishthira, Duryodhana, ever unable to bear affronts, came out of the waters. Then comes the encounter with clubs between Duryodhana and Bhima. Then the arrival at the time of such encounter of Balarama. Right, that's another word for Rama, who is Krishna's brother. Then is described the sacredness of Sarasvati. Then the progress of the encounter with clubs. Then the fracture of Duryodhana's thighs in battle by Bhima with his mace. These all have been described in the wonderful 9th Parva. In this number of sections, the number of sections is 59 and number of slokas composed by Vyasa, the speaker of the fame of Kauravas, is 3,220. Then shall I describe the Parva called Sautika, of frightful incidents. On the Pandavas having gone away, the mighty charioteer Kritavarnam, Kripa, and the son of Drona came to the field of battle in the evening, and there saw King Duryodhana lying on the ground, his thighs broken and himself covered with blood. Then the great charioteer, son of Drona, of terrible wrath, vowed, without killing all the Panchalas, including Drishtadyumna and and the Pandavas also with all their allies, I will not take off armor. Hey Ban, how you doing, buddy? Special message for Ban. It wasn't your fault. You didn't see the TV. Apparently nobody in the United States was able to see that. So next time should be better. They're still working out the bugs, you know. End of special message for Ban. Having spoken those words, the three warriors, leaving Duryodhana's side, entered the great forest just as the sun was setting. While sitting under a large banyan tree in the night, they saw an owl killing numerous crows, one after another. Interesting. What is it with these animals? At the sight of this, Ashwathaman, his heart full of rage at the thought of his father's fate, resolved to slay the slumbering Panchalas, and wending to the gate of the camp, he saw that a Rakshasa of frightful visage, or visage, his head reaching to the very heavens, guarding the entrance. And seeing that Rakshasa obstructing all his weapons, the son of Drona speedily pacified by worship the three-eyed Rudra, and then, accompanied by Kritavarman and Kripa, he slew all the sons of Draupadi, all the Panchalas, with Dristadumna and others, together with their relatives, slumbering unsuspectedly in the night. Yeah, I commented on this last week, so... All perished on that fatal night except the 5 Pandavas and the great warrior Satyaki. Those escaped owing to Krishna's counsel. Then the charioteer of Dristadumna brought to the Pandavas intelligence of the slaughter of the slumbering Panchalas by the son of Drona. Then Draupadi, distressed at the death of her sons and brothers and father, set before her lords resolved to kill herself by fasting. Hold on, guys. I don't have coffee. Hold on. I need to make a drink. Hold on, you guys. A little bit of water. Alright. Then Bhisma, of terrible prowess, moved by the words of Draupadi, resolved to please her, and speedily taking up his mace, followed in wrath the son of his preceptor in arms. The son of Drona, from fear of Bhimasena and impelled by the fates and moved also by the anger, discharged a celestial weapon, saying, "This is for the destruction of all Pandavas." Then Krishna saying, "This shall not be," neutralized Ashwatthama's speech. Alright. So according to the myth here, speaking a mantra, which is this speech that is just mentioned, can launch a celestial weapon, whatever that is. You know, that's the myth as it goes. They touch some water, speak a mantra, and a weapon is launched. Like pressing a button, right? Then Arjuna neutralized that weapon by one of his own. Seeing the wicked Ashwatthama's destructive intentions, Dvaipayana and Krishna pronounced curses on him, which the latter returned. Pandava then deprived the mighty warrior in chariot Ashwatham of the jewel on his head, and became exceedingly glad. And, boastful of their success, made a present of it to the sorrowing Draupadi. Thus the 10th Parva, called Sauptika, is recited. Vyasa composed this in 18 sections. Number of slokas is 870. In this Parva has been put together the great Rishi, the 2 Parvas called Sauptika and Aishika. After this has been recited, the highly pathetic Parva, pathetic, isn't that like a negative word? I'm sorry guys, I have to put this in the dictionary. Paste. Look up. Pathetic. Synonymous, pitiful. See? Touching, poignant, Huh. Alright, go away. So, after this has been recited the highly pathetic parva called Stri, Dhritarashtra of prophetic eye, afflicted at the death of his children and moved by enmity towards Bhima, broke into pieces a statue of hard iron deftly placed before him by Krishna, a substitute of Bhima. Strange. This sounds a bit different than what you see in Peter Brooks's movie, 5-hour, 6-hour movie. This is all at the end of the battle. And Dhritarashtra, you know, he's kind of angry because his sons got killed. But also, the other side is also his family, right? So, at the end of the battle, they're supposed to embrace each other. But Krishna puts an iron statue for Dhritarashtra instead of Bhima, because Krishna knew that Dhritarashtra, being very strong, would crush Bhima. The only thing you can gather from this story is that they knew how to make iron. Alright, some metallurgy there. Then Vidura, removing the distressed Dhritarashtra's affection for worldly things by reason, pointing to the final release, consoled that wise monarch. Yeah, final release, that's another word for death, I guess. Hey Del, how you doing, buddy? Hello, Jacqueline, also welcome. Then hath been described the wending of the distressed Dhritarashtra, accompanied by the ladies of his house, to the field of battle of the Kauravas. Here, Iota says the words in English are defined much differently in Sanskrit. Yeah, that would you probably mean the other way around, because Sanskrit is older than English. There's the Sanskrit language is probably better defined. I guess I should call it that way. Like, for instance, we have the word water, W-A-T-E-R, but we also have the word ice and steam or clouds. You know, that's also water, all of it. But in Sanskrit there are 28 different types of water, and there are 28 different names, all referring to water. See? So it's probably better defined. Right, I don't know much Sanskrit, I only know a few words, so. Here follow the pathetic wailings of the wives of the slain heroes, then the wrath of Gandhari and Dhritarashtra and their loss of consciousness. Jacqueline says, it's when you die and your body evacuates. Is it your body that evacuates, Jacqueline? What do you mean with that? Do you mean like last week I told that according to Indian philosophy you have 3 bodies? I don't know if you were there. But would it be your mental body that you're talking about? Or... You know, that's your second body, right? First is this one, with which you bang on the table. Then there's your spiritual body. Oh, well, that's gross, Jacqueline. All right. Yeah. Yeah. Insane. Yuck. Not physical, says Jacqueline. How is that not physical? Anyway, so you got three bodies. When you die, your mind, according to these philosophies, it does not perish. Alright? Your mind that you're thinking, you're wanting, and you're feeling, again, according to their philosophy. And your intelligence also stays. Your ego also stays. Yes, Chuck, it's true, I know. That also happens when they operate you in the hospital and they have to put you under, So, but those could be leaving your body, right? But when you talk about the third body that you have, according to their philosophy, which is eternal, it has this strange property of not being able to move. It's immovable, according to their own philosophy, right? This is one of the properties noted in the Bhagavad Gita. We'll get to that at some point, I guess. You will hear different properties of your eternal body, right? According to their philosophy, nobody ever dies. That's impossible. And what the heck is this? Somebody's opening my door? Hold on, guys. Alright, I'm sorry about that. But I don't like it when somebody just opens my door. You can just ring the doorbell, But, somebody bringing food. How do you like that, huh? So, sorry for the delay. Where was I? I was explaining about this eternal body, right? They talk about jiva, where you get the word rejuvenate from. Right? They say that you are not your mind, right? You are not intelligence, you are not ego. That's why they call it quote-unquote false ego. But you're quote-unquote a soul, whatever that is supposed to be, right? They also call it jiva or atma, A-T-M-A. And this Atma has what they call absolute properties. And so one of those is that it's immovable. Alright, that could refer to the idea that only in the material world things actually move. But in the absolute world, things do not move. Alright, there's no space there, you see? There's no time there either. See, so then immovability would be a logical conclusion, right? Then, continuing, then the pacification by Krishna of the wrath of Gandhari, distressed at the death of her sons and grandsons. Then the cremation of the bodies and the deceased Rajas with due rites by the monarch Yudhishthira of great wisdom and the foremost also of all virtuous men. Then upon the presentation, like presenting, right, of waters of the mains. What the heck is that? Then upon the presentation of water of the manes of the deceased princess having commenced. Right, I don't understand that sentence, but anyway. Continues, the story of Kunti's acknowledgement of Karna as her son born in secret. Remember that? I told you that story. Those have all been described by the great Rishi Vyasa in the highly pathetic 11th Parva. Its perusal moves every feeling heart with sorrow and even draweth tears from the eyes. The number of sections composed is 27. The number of sloka is 775. Sloka is a verse. Alright. 12th in number comes the Santi Parva. Hold on, let's see, what time is it? 1700. So it's time for a break, guys. We'll continue this after. Break time means poker face.
This is a public service announcement. Your country is being pulled out right from under you, and your government is doing everything to make that possible. You are nothing but sons of that global plantation. What are you going to do about it? You're going to continue being a slave. You're going to wake the F up. Verses. I see what you swallow, and I hear what not to hear. It's time to go. It's time to go. I speak what you swallow, and I read when you follow. bad people dying.
Alright, that was Poker Face, you guys. Check them out. So, second hour incoming. Welcome, Ben, Del, Dan, Jacqueline, JJ, Joe, Vince, Iota, Gringo. What's up, everybody? If you want to call in, the best thing to do is use Skype. Contact Solvinur, SOL, VINUR. I'll accept your contact request if you're not on the list yet. And I'll drag you in here. It's okay to interrupt this. It doesn't really matter. So, because, I started making radio because I thought, there seem to be a lot of people out there that are clueless, but I'm not talking to a clueless audience here. So, it's no use telling you about Oklahoma City bombing or the USS Liberty. Although I will come back to the USS Liberty next year when it's time for that, because I'm thinking it shouldn't be forgotten. But, most of you people are already pretty knowledgeable with regards to how the world really works. So, I'm doing this. The history of India according to their mythologies. Alright. 12th in number comes Santiparva, which increases the understanding and in which is related the despondency of Yudhishthira on his having slain his fathers. His fathers? He's got more than one? Alright, so I know, and I don't know all of them, but I know that according to India philosophy, you have 7 mothers. Alright, one of them being Mother Earth, you see. But I was unaware of more than one father, as far as I'm been told. Alright, so Yudhishthira, on his having slain his fathers, brothers, sons, maternal uncles, and matrimonial relations. And this Parva is described how, from his bed of arrows, Bhishma expounded various systems of duties worth the study of king desirous of knowledge. This Parva, let me stop it here, let me read what Jacqueline said. Jacqueline says, I read probably the Bhagavad Gita. What's that, SIC? What does that mean? Or SLC? I'm not sure. What does that mean, Jacqueline? I read the Bhagavad Gita long before I was enlightened enough to really get it. But I do remember the fantastic artwork within the book and remember the flying saucers in their art. Oh, really? Flying saucers in their art. Interesting. They talk about flying cities, even. Cities of stone, even, flying in the air. Oh, like that. Yeah, it's Gita, G-I-T-H, G-I-T-A, and Bhagavat, the E should be an A and ending with a D, the rest is okay. Thank you, Del. So yeah, the artwork is indeed very nice, it is. There's also native work available. It's less nice, I would say. But yeah, they make it that nice to attract you. You know? It's not for nothing that you like the pictures. They know exactly what you like. They are aware of golden ratio and things like that. So. Yeah. And Jacqueline, you don't need to be enlightened. And this is again, be very careful here. The Bhagavad Gita starts out assuming you know nothing. Alright? So it's okay to start reading it at any point in your life. You don't have to be enlightened to get it. So, the Hare Krishnas at the airport gave it to you. Awesome. Yeah. Yeah, sometimes they give away books. Sometimes they sell them. I bought some of them very cheap. Indeed. Very cheap. They do that because they want the message to get out. These people that are on the streets, it's their duty to get the message out. They want everybody to be Hare Krishna, you see. So if you quote-unquote fall for their writings, you will become a Hare Krishna. You will become a devotee, as they call it. Alright, so it's like with the Bible. You should read this stuff. But don't take it literally. It's a form of mind control. Alright, so be very wary when you read this stuff. And we will probably get to it, Jacqueline, at some point, this Bhagavad Gita. It means the song of God, right? Bhagavan, you probably heard that name before. Bhagavan is God. Gita is song, so it means song of God, or God's song. They call it the song because it is chanted. In the Sanskrit texts, when you read them, it really does sound like music. It really does, because of the tones in it, and the rhymes. And if you're a good reader of the Sanskrit text, you don't actually read it, but you chant it. That's also done to make you remember it better. Because, people always remember music better than anything else, better than text. So that's also a reason why it is a poem, you see, so that you remember it better. But just keep in mind that it's a story, just like the Bible. It's a story. It's not the absolute truth as we know it. Not as far as I'm concerned anyway. There are people that take it as absolute truth, that just as there are people that take the Bible as the absolute truth. Alright, that's dangerous. You get stuck then. Alright, let's continue here. 12th in number is the Santiparva, which increases understanding, and in which is related the despondency of Yudhishthira on his having slain his fathers, brothers, sons. I just did that, but anyway. Maternal uncles and matrimonial relations. In this parva it is described how from his bed of arrows Bhishma expounded various systems of duties worth the study of kings desirous of knowledge. What they're saying here is that you can do things to become more knowledgeable. Alright, this is called Karma Yoga. That's a special chapter in the Bhagavad Gita. Karma means action. Jacqueline says she also read the Ramayana and the Mahabharata. Well, how long were you busy with reading the Mahabharata? That's almost impossible because it's too big. It really is. Did you hear the numbers of thousands of slokas? And those are verses. You know, one of these parts would be a book like 3 times as thick as the Bible, and that's just one part, you know. So I don't know which version you read, but okay, the Ramayana you can read. That's doable, and it's a good story too, you know. I like the part where Hanuman is coming in that story. The last speaking ape, so to speak. Alright, hold on, let me fix these windows here. So I can follow the chat if there's any questions also. Yeah. Alright, Jacqueline, way to go. Did you get anything out of it? Or was it just a story to you? Blah blah. By understanding these, a person attains to consummate knowledge. To consummate knowledge. Interesting. The mysteries also of final emancipation have been expatiated upon. This is the 12th Parva, the favorite of the wise. It consists of 339 sections and contains 4,732 slokas. Next in order is the excellent Anusasana Parva. In it is described how Yudhishthira, the king of the Kurus, was reconciled to himself on hearing the exposition of duties by Bhishma, the son of Bhagirathi. Yeah. Jacqueline says, I got the difference between the Atman, another word for that is Jiva or soul, and the Brahman, mostly, and it did help me understand different selves. Yeah, interesting. Yeah. Alright, so Atman is more like a point, one could say, or a dot, right? Where Brahman is more like a field. But there are no words to describe it. Right? Any words that you use will not suffice. Because Atman and Brahman are non-material. Therefore you cannot describe it. Because anything that you describe is material. This Parva treats of rules in detail of Dharma and Artha. Alright, Dharma is, according to their philosophy, according to their myth, is your first and original duty. Then the rules of charity and its merits. Then the qualification of donees, what the heck is that? D-O-N-E-E-S. And the supreme right regarding gifts. What the heck is that? Right regarding gifts? This Parva also describes the ceremonial of individual duty, the rules of conduct, and the matchless merit of truth. This Parva shows the great merit of Brahmanas and kine, and unravels the mysteries of duties in relation to time and place. These are embodied in the excellent Parva called Anusasana of varied incidents. In this has been described the ascension of Bhishma to heaven, This is the 13th parva, which has laid down accurately the various duties of men. The number of sections is 146, number of slokas 8,000. Then comes the 14th parva, Ashvamedika. In this is the excellent story of Samvarta and Marutu. Then is described the discovery by the Pandavas of golden treasures, and then the birth of Parikshit, who was revived by Krishna after having been burnt by the celestial weapon of Ashwatthama. The battles of Arjuna, the son of Pandu, while following the sacrificial horse let loose, with various princes who in wrath seized it. Then is shown the great risk of Arjuna in his encounter with Vabruvahana, the son of Chitrangada, the appointed daughter of the chief of Manipura. That's probably Seti Manipura. Then the story of the mongoose during the performance of the horse sacrifice. This is the most wonderful parva called Ashvamedika. The number of sections is 103. Number of slokas composed by Vyasa is 3,320. Then comes the 15th parva, called Ashramvasika. In this, Dhritarashtra, abdicating the kingdom and accompanied by Gandhari and Vidura, went to the woods. Seeing this, the virtuous Rita also, ever engaged in cherishing her superiors, leaving the court of her sons, followed the old couple. In this is described the wonderful meeting through the kindness of Vyasa of the king, Dhritarashtra, with the spirits of his slain children, grandchildren and other princes, returned from the other world. Then the monarch, abandoning his sorrows, acquired with his wife the highest fruit of his miraculous actions. In this parva, Vidura, after having leaned on virtue all his life, attained to the most meritorious state. The learned son of Gavalgana, Sanjaya, also of passions under full control, and the foremost of ministers, attained in the parva to the blessed state. In this, Yudhishthira the just met Narada and heard from him about the extinction of the race of Vrishnis. This is the very wonderful parva called Ashramvasika. The number of sections in this is 42, and the number of slokas is 1506. After this comes the Manshala of painful incidents. In this, those lion-hearted heroes of the race of Vrishni, with the scars of many a field on their bodies, oppressed with the curse of a Brahmana, while deprived of reason from drink, impelled by the fates, slew each other on the horses of the salt sea, with the Eraka grass, which in their hands became thunder. In this, both Balarama and Kesava, that's another word for Krishna, after causing the extermination of their race, their hour having come, themselves did not rise superior to that sway of all-destroying time. In this, Arjuna, the foremost among men, going to Dvaravati, that's another name for Dvaraka, it's a city, kind of like Troy, you know, it's supposed to, they thought it didn't exist until they actually found Troy. Dvaraka could be the same. There are claims that they actually found this city. Alright. And seeing the city destitute of the Vrishnis, was much affected and became exceedingly sorry. Then, after the funeral of his maternal uncle Vasudeva, the foremost among the Yadus, Vrishnis, he saw the heroes of the Yadu race lying stretched in death on the spot where they had been drinking. He then caused the cremation of the bodies of the illustrious Krishna and Balarama and of the principal members of the Vrishni race. Then, as he was journeying from Dvaraka with the women and children, the old and the decrepit remnants of the Yadu race, he was met on the way by a heavy calamity. He witnessed also the disgrace of his bow Gandiva and the unpropitiousness, whatever that is, of his celestial weapons. Seeing all this, Arjuna became despondent and, pursuant to Vyasa's advice, went to Yudhishthira and solicited permission to adopt the sannyasa mode of life. This is the 16th parva called Maushala. The number of sections is 8. Number of sections is 8. The number of slogas is 320. So that's a small one. Very small one. The next is Mahaprashtanika, the 7th parva. No, the 17th parva. In this, the foremost among men, the Pandavas, abdicating their kingdom, went with Draupadi on their great journey called Mahaprasthana. In this, they came across Agni. Agni is god of fire. It's probably where you get the word ignite from. Agni, ignition. In this they came across Agni, having arrived at the shore of the sea of red waters. In this, asked by Agni himself, Arjuna worshipped him duly, returned to him the excellent celestial bow called Gandiva. In this, leaving his brothers who dropped one after another, and Draupadi also, Yudhishthira went on his journey without once looking back on them. This, the 17th parva, is called Mahaprashtanika. The number of sections is 3. The number of slokas composed is 320. The parva that comes after this is the extraordinary one called Svarga, of celestial incidents. Then, seeing the celestial car come to take him, Yudhishthira, moved by kindness towards the dog that accompanied him, refused to ascend it without his companion. The dog. It's a representation of Dharma. Observing the illustrious Yudhishthira's steady adherence to virtue, Dharma, the god of justice, abandoning his canine form, showed himself to the king. Then Yudhishthira, ascending to heaven, felt much pain. The celestial messenger showed him hell by an act of deception. Then Yudhishthira, the soul of justice, heard the heart-rending lamentations of his brothers abiding in that region under the discipline of Yama. Yama, Y-A-M-A. He is, you see how they use the word hell here? How do you think that is? Do you think they got that from the Bible? When this stuff is much older than the Bible? So I don't know what the Sanskrit word for this hell is. But, you know, they don't really speak about it like that. What I've been told is that there are different levels of planets in this universe. They are 14 in number, apparently. We are, on this earth, at about the middle. Alright? And if, according to their philosophy, and again, I don't tend to agree with it, I think it's ridiculous. Alright? There are many hooks and strange things about this, and we'll discuss this at some other point. Alright? But according to your karma, which, by the way, translated means action, but you all have a different notion about what karma is. You know, most people think that it's something hanging over your head that's going to get you either in this life or in the next, right? And so according to your karma, you reincarnate on different planets. If you've been pious, you ascend to higher planets. If you've been bad, you descend to lower planets. And the so-called lowest planet would be considered hell. You see? So there's 14 different states. Alright, maybe they are talking about 14 different states of consciousness. I don't know. But it's not advised to take these myths literally, as if there are literally 14 different kinds of planets. The top planet in this mythology is called Brahmaloka. Loka is planet. It's probably where we get the word location from. Right? Brahmaloka is where Brahma is king. Where Yama is king is the lowest planet. See, they even have kings in the lower planets. It is said that if you ascend to Brahmaloka, you get a long life, like 100,000 years, in just one life. See? It's kind of like a material heaven. It's a bit different than the Christian view of heaven, where you stay forever, you see? No, it's not forever, it's for 100,000 years. And depending on your karma then, you either ascend to the absolute state of consciousness, which is for most of them, as they say, because of the high standard of knowledge at Brahmaloka. Dan puts in the chat a link about Brahmaloka, so you can read a little bit more about it there. Alright, so but what they told me is that in Brahmaloka there is so much knowledge that descending is very unlikely. You know, they say that, and this is probably in the chapter Karma Yoga, that via your actions you can actually reach the absolute heaven, where there is no birth, no death, nothing material, no time, no space. Alright? Let's continue here. Then Dharma and Indra showed Yudhishthira the region appointed for sinners. Then Yudhishthira, after leaving the human body by a plunge in the celestial Ganges, the celestial Ganges, that's a river. It actually exists today in India. Why they call it celestial, I have no clue. Alright, according to the myth, if I remember this correct, there is a mountain up in the Himalaya where Shiva lives. And from Shiva's foot, this river is supposed to spring. You see? Maybe that's why they call it celestial, because it's from Shiva. I don't know. Attained to that, and continuing, attained to that region which his acts merited, and began to live in joy, respected by Indra and all other gods. This is the 18th Parva as narrated by Vyasa. Number of slokas is 209. Doesn't mention how many verses. Oh, it does. Doesn't mention how many sections. So it's probably one section and 209 verses. The above are the contents of the 18th Parva. In the appendix, Netskita and the Harivansa and the Vavishya. The number of slokas contained in the Harivansa is 12,000. These are the contents of the section called Parva Sangraha, Sauti continued. 18 Akshauhinis of troops came together for battle. The encounter that ensued was terrible and lasted for 18 days. Right? That is the battle of Kurukshetra. It lasted for 18 days. He who knows the 4 Vedas with all the Angas and Upanishads but does not know this history, Bharata, cannot be regarded as wise. Yeah. Right, so they have a different idea about what wisdom is. For those of you that have listened to me ranting on about the trivium, wisdom has more to do with action. Right? Wisdom is rhetoric. It's the use of the grammar and knowledge. The grammar / knowledge and understanding that you have attained. Vyasa of immeasurable intelligence has spoken of the Mahabharata as a treatise on Artha, Dharma and on Kama. Those who have listened to his history can never bear to listen to others, as indeed those who have listened to the sweet voice of the male Kokila can never hear the dissonance of the crow's cawing. As the formation of the 3 worlds proceeds from the 5 elements, so now we know a little bit more about the 3 worlds. They are apparently made of 5 elements: earth, water, fire, air, and ether. Same goes for your body, by the way. It's also made of those elements. So the inspiration of all the poets proceed from this excellent composition. O ye Brahman, as the 4 kinds of creatures, viviparous, oviparous, born of hot moisture and vegetables. I don't know exactly what that is, but I'm thinking 4-legged, 2-legged, born of hot moisture. What the heck is that? And vegetables are dependent on space for their existence, so the Puranas depend on this history. As the senses depend for their exercise upon the various modifications of the mind, so do all acts, ceremonials, and moral qualities depend upon this treatise. There is not a story current in the world, but doth depend on this history, even as body upon the food it taketh. Alright, so I don't know what viviparous and oviparous sounds like vapors, right? I don't know what that is, guys. 4 kinds of creatures. Well, we'll probably get to that if we ever get to read the Srimad Bhagavatam. Alright, there's Bhagavad Gita, which is an introduction to the Srimad Bhagavatam. All poets cherish the Bharata, even as servants desirous of preferment, always attend upon mastery of good lineage. Masters of good lineage? Sound like eugenics or what? Even as the blessed domestic ashrama can never be surpassed by the 3 other ashramas, right? Ashrama is a mode of life. So no poets can surpass this poem. Ye ascetics, shake off all inaction. Let your hearts be fixed on virtue. No Dan and no Jacqueline. Shiva has a wife. She's called Shakti. Right? Shiva is male. And, you know, they might seem androgynous. What do you call that? No, not androgynous. Hermaphrodite? Yeah. You know why that is, Dan? That's because they want to attract both sexes. That's why, you know, you might find Shiva depicted a bit of hermaphrodite-like. Alright, but he's a male. And he's got a wife. So check it out. Alright. Where were we? Let your hearts be fixed on virtue, for virtue is the only friend of him that has gone to the other world. Even the most intelligent, by cherishing wealth and wives, can never make these their own, nor are these possessions lasting. The Bharata, uttered by the lips of Dvaipayana, is without a parallel. It is virtue itself and sacred. It destroys sin and produces good. He that listens to it while it is being recited has no need of a bath in the sacred waters of the Pushkara. A Brahmana, whenever sins he may commit during the day through his senses, is freed from them all by reading the Bharata in the evening. Whatever sins he may commit also in the night by deeds, words or mind, he is freed from them all by reading Bharata in the first twilight. He that giveth 100 kine with horns mounted with gold to a Brahmana, well posted up in the Vedas and the branches of learning, and he that daily listens to the sacred narrations of the Bharata, acquires equal merit. As the wide ocean is easily passable by men having ships, so is the extensive history of great excellence and deep import with the help of this chapter called Parva Sangraha. Alright, and thus ends the section called Parva Sangraha of the Adiparva of the blessed Mahabharata. Alright, section 3. Sauti said, Janamajaya, the son of Parikshit, was with his brothers attending his long sacrifice on the plains of Kurukshetra. His brothers were 3, Shrutasena, Ugrasena, and Bhimasena. And as they went sitting at the sacrifice, they arrived at the spot, an offspring of Sarama, the celestial bitch. I'm sorry guys, this is exactly what it says. And belabored by the brothers of Janamajaya, he ran away to his mother, crying in pain. And his mother, seeing him crying, exceedingly asked him, Why criest thou so? What has beaten thee? And being thus questioned, he said unto his mother, I have been belabored by the brothers of Janamajaya. And his mother replied, Thou hast committed some fault, for which hast thou been beaten? He answered, I have not committed any fault. I have not touched the sacrificial butter with my tongue, nor have I even cast a look upon it. His mother Sarama, hearing this, and much distressed at the affliction of her son, went to the place where Janamajaya with his brothers was sitting at his long extending sacrifice, and she addressed Janamajaya in anger, saying, This my son hath committed no fault. He has not looked upon your sacrificial butter, nor has he touched it with his tongue. Wherefore hath he been beaten? They said not a word in reply, whereupon she said, As you have beaten my son, who has committed no fault, therefore shall evil come upon ye, when ye least expect it. Janamajaya, thus addressed by the celestial bitch, Sarama, became exceedingly alarmed and dejected. After the sacrifice was concluded, returned to Hastinapura and began to take great pains in searching for a Purohita, which could be procuring absolution for his sin, neutralize the effect of the curse. One day, Janamajaya, the son of Parikshit, while hunting, observed in a particular part of his dominions a hermitage where dwelt a certain rishi of fame, Shrutasrava. He had a son named Somasrava, deeply engaged in ascetic devotions. Being desirous of appointing that son of the rishi as his Purohita, Janamajaya, the son of Parikshit, saluted the rishi and addressed him, saying, O possessor of the 6 attributes, let this thy son be my Purohita. The rishi was thus addressed, answered Janamajaya, O Janamajaya, this my son, deep in ascetic devotion, accomplished in the study of the Vedas, and endued with the full force of my asceticism, is born a she-snake that had drunk my vital fluid. What the heck is that, guys? Born of a she-snake? He is also able to absolve thee from all offenses, save those committed against Mahadeva. But he has one particular habit, viz, V-I-Z. I don't know what that is, guys. He would grant to any Brahmana whatever might be begged of him. If thou canst put up with it, then thou take him. Janamajaya just thus addressed replied to the rishi, It shall be even so. And accepting him for his Purohita, he returned to his capital. And he then addressed his brother, saying, This is the person I have chosen for my spiritual master. whosoever he may say must be complied with by you without examination. And his brother did as they were directed. His brothers did as they were directed. And giving these directions to his brother, the king marched towards Takshila and brought that country under his authority. About this time, there was a rishi, Ayodha Daumya. Ayodha? And Ayodha Daumya had 3 disciples, Upamanyu, Aruni, and Veda. And the rishi bade one of these disciples, Aruna of Panchala, to go and stop at a breach in the watercourse of a certain field. And Aruni of Panchala, thus ordered by his preceptor, repaired to the spot. After having gone there, he saw that he could not stop up the breach in the watercourse by ordinary means. Does this sound like a making of a dam or what, you guys? And he was distressed because he could not do his preceptor's bidding. But at length he saw a way and said, "Well, I will do it in this way." He went down into the breach and lay himself there, and the water was thus confined. Strange. After some time after, the preceptor Ayodha Daumya asked his other disciples where Aruni of Panchala was. And they answered, "Sir, he has been sent by yourself, saying, go stop up the breach in the watercourse of the field." Thus reminded, Daumya, addressing his pupil, said, "Then let us go to the place where he is." And having arrived there, he shouted, "Ho, Aruni of Panchala, where art thou? Come hither, my child." And Aruni, hearing the voice of his preceptor, speedily came out of the watercourse and stood before his preceptor. And addressing the latter, Aruni said, "Here I am in the breach of the watercourse. Not having been able to devise any other means, I entered myself for the purpose of preventing the water running out. It is only upon hearing thy voice that, having left it and allowed the waters to escape, I have stood before thee. I salute thee, master. Tell me what I have to do." The preceptor, thus addressed, replied, Because in getting up from the ditch thou hast opened the watercourse, then forth shalt thou be called Udalaka, as a mark of thy preceptor's favor. And because my words have been obeyed by thee, thou shalt obtain good fortune, and all the Vedas shall shine in thee, and all the Dharma Shastras also. And Aruni, thus addressed by his preceptor, went to the country after his heart. The name of another of Ayodha Daumya's disciples was Upamanyu, and Daumya appointed him, saying, "Go, my child, Upamanyu, look after thy kine." And according to his preceptor's orders, he went to tend the kine. And having watched them all day, he returned in the evening to his preceptor's house, and standing before him, he saluted him respectfully. And his preceptor, seeing him in good condition of body, asked him, "Upamanyu, my child, upon what dost thou support thyself? Thou art exceedingly plump." And he answered, "Sir, I support myself by begging." And his preceptor said, "What is obtained in alms should not be used by thee without offering it to me." And Upamanyu, thus told, went away. and having obtained alms, he offered the same to his preceptor, and the preceptor took from him even the whole. And Upamanyu, thus treated, went to attend the cattle. And having watched them all day, he returned in the evening to his preceptor's abode. And he stood before his preceptor and saluted him with respect. And his preceptor, perceiving that he still continued to be of good condition of body, said up to him, Upamanyu, my child, I take from thee even the whole of what thou obtainedst in alms, without leaving anything for thee. How then dost thou at present contrive to support thyself? And Upamanyu said unto his preceptor, Sir, having made over to you all that I obtain in alms, I go a-begging a second time for supporting myself. And his preceptor then replied, This is not the way in which thou shouldst obey the preceptor. By this thou art diminishing the support of others that live by begging. Truly, having supported thyself so, thou hast proven thyself covetous. And Upamanyu, having signified his assent to all that his preceptor said, went away to attend the cattle. After having watched them all day, he returned to the preceptor's house. As he stood before his preceptor and saluted him respectfully, well, let's stop it here, guys. We'll do this. We'll continue this next week. We are at page 35, and we'll continue the story about Upamanyu, because it's 57, which means Huxley is coming in soon. So let's see. Let's thank the people in the chat. Dan, Jack, JJ, Joe, Mr. Eserect, something like that. Vince, Cap, what's up, everybody? Thanks for tuning in and chatting with everybody, supporting the chat with links for your education. So, stay tuned. Have a good day and all. And I'll be back next week to continue with this. Maybe we'll do Bhagavad Gita, but I'm not really bored with this Mahabharata yet, so we'll probably continue with that, but it's going to be about the Vedas, that's for sure. And we'll get to the history of India. Alright, don't forget that these Indians, they take this as history. For them this is all happened, this is all true. So, thanks for listening. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
I think a new world order is emerging.
An inside job? How dare you? How dare you?
To create, so to say, mass-produced models of human beings arranged in some kind of a scientific cast.